Welcome back, Basement Dwellers, to another Podern Nerd talking about Loki Season 2, and this time Episode 4, Heart of the TVA, directed by Justin Benson and Aaron Moorhead, written by Eric Martin and Catherine Blair. This episode debuted October 26, 2023 on Disney+, and joining me as always, Cheever.
What?
And by the way, I'm the Dace Man. I don't know if I said that at the beginning of Episode 3 of who I was. I guess I'm just arrogant enough that you know a conqueror when you hear a conqueror. We're going to be talking about Episode 4, which is now, we're on the second half of Season 2, man. Victor Timely, Mobius, and Loki have returned to the TVA. Ms. Minutes and Renslayer are stranded at the end of time with the corpse of He Who Remains. And Ms. Minutes has a big secret. So let's dive right into this episode and talk about that secret, where Miss Minutes reveals that in the past, Renslayer commanded the He Who Remains army.
Like, what a shock right there, right? Like, you like, there was always that tension. Like, you can kind of tell Renslayer had some form of relationship with the He Who Remains because of her loyalty to the TVA.
Mm-hmm.
But boy, oh boy, to be able to lead something like that and then not even to remember any of that that was just a huge shock to begin with.
So at least when the reveal came with the whole past of Renslayer, her being a general of the army isn't too much of a shock because she's basically the general of the TVA. The shocker is that after having an episode where Victor Timely refused to have a fucking partner, He Who Remained proposed to Renslayer after the war was concluded that he would lead the TVA with her. And then after she left the room, basically turned to Miss Minutes and went, erase that bitch's memory. And all the TVA employees, which we kind of knew happened based on like little clues that have been peppered through the last 3 episodes.
Yeah.
So it's shocking in the fact that, like, okay, they did the thing that we thought they were going to do. To me, the shocking point is Ms. Minutes showed Renslayer. She could have played this out without telling her, but Ms. Minutes is doubling down. Like, I need her emotional and ready to rock and roll. How do you feel about that?
Yeah. I mean, that's emotional manipulation 101. You want something done, get someone upset.
Yeah. And the benefit of Ms. Minutes being there is the easy escape that Renslayer has from the end of time. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming Sylvie, when she kicked her through the door, didn't think that Renslayer had that Ms. Minutes on her or the capability to escape that spot. But we know they're going to show up later in this episode, and that will be a huge talking point when they arrive at the TVA. But let's jump over to the TVA, where Loki has arrived with Victor Timely and Mobius to introduce them to Ouroboros. Ouroboros? I'm going to fuck
OB.
that up. OB.
The OG OB.
Which then the introduction between Timely and OB is like a weird paradoxical meeting where OB is like, oh my God, you wrote the handbook. Like, this is like, the handbook is based on everything you've done, Victor. And Victor's like, no, you wrote the handbook and everything I've done is based on what you wrote. So they have like that weird circle.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that?
I mean, it makes you wonder if Victor Timely and He Who Remains work together at the beginning of the war. Yeah. Because there's obviously Kangs that probably didn't want war or just wanted peace amongst all the variants of all the timelines. So it would make sense that they would team together. So
the other question I have for you,
maybe the Victor Timely, like, part of the sacred timeline, right, is that he doesn't get the book or he doesn't want to invent.
Yeah, I have a kind of question that's kind of, I think, will either change a little bit of your answer or add to it. Do you think OB's memory is erased?
No.
Okay, so you think because that's what I'm leaning towards, which means he knew of the Kang plants and the backup plans.
Not necessarily.
Well,
He may have known of all of the different variants of He Who Remains or of Kang, but he probably doesn't know the difference between a bad Kang and a good Kang.
So with Victor Timely, because we talked about this in episode 3, they grabbed him off a branch timeline. And we were talking about the branch timeline version of Victor Timely is one who has all the TVA knowledge. He got the book like Biff did in Back to the Future.
Yeah.
And then went on to do the whole casino thing. Do you think the sacred timeline, Victor? Because to me, the assumption is OB knows Victor from the sacred timeline, not the branch timeline. Yes. Right? I think is that a fair point to leverage off?
That's a fair point. Yeah.
So if OB knows Victor off of the the sacred timeline, that means Victor is more significant in the sacred timeline than like one would believe. And that maybe he still did the same experiments, but just was never picked off and never given the guidebook. So maybe his experiments never got to the level they did in the branch timeline where he basically rebuilt a smaller loom. But maybe he still had the ideas for the loom. Like,
yeah,
this is a hang up for me of OB knowing of Victor Timely.
Yeah. So think about it, right? So, because I'm trying to get someone to watch Loki, so I'm sending them clips and whatnot. And when they talk about why they prune or why someone's getting pruned or why they're facing trial to be pruned, is that someone did something to cause a Nexus event or cause something that isn't in the script.
Mm-hmm.
So does people or things get pruned in the sacred timeline to ensure that Victor Timely does not start inventing things? And if because they don't prune the TVA guidebook, Victor Timely goes, "Hey, I should start inventing."
So what this interaction between those two did for me, and we talked about this in episode 1 when they first introduced OB. I'm leaning more towards OB being a variant of Kang.
I mean, it is possible. And before watching this episode, I read an article about something that happened in episode 1. I'm curious to know if you caught it, because I didn't catch it.
Mm-hmm.
When Loki time slips into the past, and you meet younger OB. Younger OB was not wearing glasses.
Oh, no, I didn't pick up on that at all.
So, I mean, it could also be one of those things that writers or the director does to distinguish past and present.
Yeah.
Especially in a room where it doesn't change. But because of that means OB ages while no one else in the TVA ages. Which is interesting. So
yeah.
So is he actually a variant? Like you said, he could be a variant that is designed or point of his creation is to be in the TVA at all times.
Yeah, so that's the anomaly with OB right now. Is so like we know Renslayer was there with Kang, right? Or He Who Remains. He Who Remains gave explicit directions that we saw to be in this episode to erase Renslayer and other TV employees' minds. So I guess what we would need as a viewer is when was that moment versus when was OB brought on? And if OB was brought on before the moment of the mind erasing, how does he know so much? Because at least he has all the answers for any plot thing they've run into. If they run into a plot wall, OB usually can say, like, give you the reason why that's there.
Yeah.
But like Mobius can't, B-15 can't, Docs can't, the Council can't. Like none of them have an answer as to why, but OB usually has some insight.
Yeah.
And if he's the guy that created the handbook, quote unquote, I assume that handbook was created before the memories were erased. So he remembers making it.
Yeah.
There's just a lot around OB that's still, I don't trust him.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that I don't get Mephisto'd. Like I did in WandaVision, just thinking everything was related to him, and then OB's just OB, and there's nothing more to him. But to me, there's something about him I still don't trust.
Yeah, and that's the joy of being a viewer, right? It's sometimes we pick up or read things that are it's just a prop in the background.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, we got 2 episodes left after this. And OB, so it's OB is so conflicting. Things he says makes you feel that he's been there forever and could potentially be a variant of Kang, or a variant of that would just like he's been with Kang from the get-go. So maybe like Kang's Ebony Maw or something like that.
Yeah, right-hand man.
Yeah. But the things he does is kind of anti He Who Remains mission. Like he's trying to he's not trying to fix the loom to put the loom back to the way it was. He's trying to make it better to maintain all the branches.
Yeah.
And he's trying to help Loki with the time slipping. Like he's doing things that would be very anti He Who Remains agenda.
Yeah.
So he's so catch-22, and I hope we have some resolution to that by the end of this. I also hope I still think that if Jonathan Majors gets into some shit, OB is the ripcord. Yeah, he's the ripcord to be like, oh, that's the Kang that you should fear.
Jonathan Majors, his trial set for November.
After the series ends.
Yeah. So then the question is, did they film something, or have they discussed about reshoots for Loki season 2?
I think Loki season 2 is going to come as it was originally created. I believe, and this is just a guess, they're going to make it ambiguous enough that they could fix it. Because playing with the multiverse and branch timelines and shit like that, you can make anything work now.
Yeah, but you can't do the ending that you want where Loki meets Thor that way.
You could. You leave OB open-ended.
True.
Because there's a moment at the end of this episode we'll talk about that kind of throws the whole Kang thing into obscurity. Well, it throws the whole damn show into obscurity when we get there.
Yeah. But boy, oh boy.
So they're basically KC and OB are down there trying to figure out how to get in there. They eventually meet Victor. Like basically the entire crew congregates down by the loom to get in there and get it working. While that is happening, Miss Minutes and Renslayer reappear at the TVA and approach the detained Brad Wolf and Dox and the Loyalists for help in probably the most sadistic fucking scene MCU has ever done without showing it.
Oh my god. I don't think I've talked to anyone that hasn't said that was the most intense scene ever in television.
And it was all sold on the expressions of Renslayer, Wolf, and that psychotic Miss Minutes.
Oh my god, the smiles in the background, the lean forwards at the one point, it's just, you can just tell that she just enjoyed every second of a scream, and it was just bone chilling.
It's a rough scene. So basically, Renslayer and Miss Minutes are there to convince them to join their cause, and the only one who bites on it is Wolf, because Wolf is making a plea to Dox before they show up of like, I like my life. I liked what I had implanted myself into.
Yeah.
Dox stands her grounds of like, look, I'm not 100% sold on B15 and Mobius's plan, but I know I'm definitely not with you two.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, Ms. Minutes fires up that machine that Loki pretended to use with Brad Wolf.
Yeah.
Brad knew what was happening, and they went through with it. And you heard the noises. You saw the faces of Brad and Renslayer and the little psycho. And then eventually you'll get B15's reaction to it too when she shows up there to see what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Of just what the fuck. And also, imagine just walking back in to see that. You just go, oh, everything's looking perfectly fine, to what happened.
It would be a box of blood.
Yeah.
because it's a sick comparison, but essentially they did the Titan submersible fucking thing to a group of people and essentially left it there. And I have a feeling that's why they didn't show it. I mean, aside from it being PG-13.
Well, that too. Well, it's like you're juicing a person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's
you're juicing multiple people.
Yeah, and it's like,
just picture how small that box got with Brad Wolf.
Yeah,
and you had 15 people in there.
That. Like, how small do you think that box? Like you know, the writer's fault about like how small that box would be if they had to show it.
Right, and I give them props because basically it took the acting of Renslayer, Wolf, and B-15 to sell the horrific thing that happened without showing that horrific thing.
Yeah.
And even credit to the people who scored it, because like the sound and the music they played during it, it's a very creepy and eerie moment of like, holy shit, you're not with us, you're gone.
Yeah.
And
the interesting part, I will say this, one interesting part about all of that is they really didn't give anyone a second to jump ship.
Yeah, I don't even think
it was
Wolf
kind of
fully
just like
jumped.
Yeah, I think he was just standing to the side, and Renslayer was like, "All right, you're safe. This is what happens if you betray me."
Really, his agreement was basically him hesitating with Dox's position. He didn't outright disagree with Dox, but he didn't outright agree with her, and that was good enough for Renslayer. Well, Ms. Minutes, because Renslayer didn't really fucking do it.
Yeah,
Ms. Minutes is just like, all right, we're gonna take care of these. This guy's gonna fall in line because he stumbled a bit. Didn't fully commit at first, but he stumbled, saw what happened, and he's going to commit now. The crap thing is, Wolf, after they crush the loyalists, Wolf comes out and immediately prunes D90. Where do you think do these pruned people still go to that planet? Like how? So the people they're pruning post season 1.
Yeah.
When they were pruned before, they would appear there and deal with that monster, the smoke monster, whatever fuck it was.
Goliath, I think its name
was. Goliath. Goliath was subdued and essentially rendered useless. So are these people just aimlessly wandering the wastelands? Yeah.
I mean, they could be.
I mean, granted, it looks like the end of time is deteriorating, or at least He Who Remains' area was deteriorating because of the branch timelines.
Well, he was also outside of the timelines. Because remember, in the rock, the timeline is that giant white circle that surrounds.
Mm-hmm. So these people that are being pruned aren't essentially dead.
Correct. They're just at the last possible point in time that can exist.
Yeah, and they don't necessarily have a way out. They could. I mean, if Mobius and Loki weren't dicks about it, they could go get D90. They have been there. They have the coordinates. They should be able to go back and get them. Unlike the Loyalist and Dox, who just got murdered.
Yep.
So basically now you have Miss Minutes in the TVA. She has taken back over the system, which then starts messing with all the power. Like on top of all the shit going down with the Loom, she's now further complicating it, which causes Sylvie and Loki to make a beeline for the council chambers because that's where they just assumed they were going. And it feels like Ms. Minutes is kind of guiding them there too by basically throwing in some hurdles that kind of direct them in that direction. Loki finally runs into his past self that we saw in episode 1.
Yep.
Prunes him and basically goes, I'll explain it later to Sylvie, who's completely fucking confused.
But Sylvie should also understand, though, because in episode 2, he goes, I was in the future and I saw you in the TVA.
Mm-hmm.
She should be go, oh, that, like, yeah, you did see something wrong in the future. Like, that should be clicking in her brain.
Yeah, this was that moment you talked about.
Yeah.
So they basically, they're heading to the council. They get a phone call from OB about like, oh, well, Ms. Minutes is in the system. She's basically blocking everything out. I'd have to reset her. And his downside to the reset was, people would be able to use magic. To which the Loki and Sylvie like, why the hell are we just doing this now?
Yeah.
Which allows Sylvie to then use mind control on Wolf, who gets into the council room, kind of give him like an opening for Sylvie and Loki to get in there. So how do you feel about that confrontation? I thought it was quick. I get why it was quick, but what were your thoughts?
I mean, it paid off. The season 1 payoff of Sylvie getting her revenge.
Mm-hmm.
But other than that, it was just a way to help lead up to the final scenes.
It makes sense. And to get Renslayer out of the way and Ms. Minutes, because Ms. Minutes gets deactivated and you see her kind of rebooting.
Yep.
Wolf prunes Renslayer, which brings me back to the question of like, if you're pruned, are you really gone?
Which they'll bring up next episode. I'll put $5 down that they bring Renslayer back.
I can't see their episode. Yeah, I can't see them cutting her off completely.
Yeah.
So they rescue Timely, they bring him back down, they restored access, and basically they're like, hey, now we got to go out there and fix the loom. And Victor volunteers. So this is the moment for me, and I assume a viewer in general, you're seeing that Victor actually has a good heart. So this is a good version of Nathaniel Richards, a good version of Kang. So he gets in the suit, they open the door, steps 1 foot out, and he's spaghettified.
I was
Holy
feeling
shit.
good. I was feeling great. And then I just watched the strings appear and I just was defeated.
So, like, obviously, this episode's so bang, 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 let's go.
Yeah.
You don't realize where you are in the episode, that you're basically close to the, like, very close to the end. Yeah. I did not expect him to survive it. I expected him to fix it. I expected him to make the ultimate sacrifice, like the Iron Man sacrifice. Mm-hmm. When he, like, instantly fucking died, I was like, the fuck?
Yeah.
You brought Jonathan Majors in here just to spaghettify him?
Which was, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's hilarious. It's great. Just...
Oh, I don't hate it at all. I hate that it ended because, like, you thought, oh, we're gonna get some, like, resolution, and the last 2 episodes are gonna set up, you know, the multiverse saga. No, more chaos. Just adding more chaos to it, because after he's spaghettified, the temporal loom fucking blows, and Loki's like, I don't know what the fuck we're gonna do. Like, he's got that look of horror from, like, when the Bifrost blew up, of like, oh, this is the end. This is over. And then it cuts to black, which is like the perfect ending. It felt like Endgame. And it wasn't, to me, episode 4 of Loki season 2, you were not expecting an Endgame level ending.
Yeah, because the going into all of this, you're like, okay, we're gonna get to the next chapter of the Avengers, and just oh nope, never mind.
I'm going to correct myself real quick. An Infinity War ending, not Endgame. The Infinity War ending, where, like, you got the gut punch, heroes are gone. Snap.
Yeah,
like, we lost. Like, I think it's going out on a limb with a lot of these shows and movies where the good guy loses. It's beautiful, and that's why I liked Infinity War more than Endgame to a point. But holy shit, what an ending!
Yeah, and it leaves much to be desired for next week, man.
Well, that's the thing. Like, we've ended every episode of going, where do you think they go from here? They have a blank check. We know that there's 2 episodes. Yep. You hit the Nintendo reset button on this from the original NES, which means any progress has been lost. What do you do in 2 episodes?
Scramble to reset. Scramble to get to where you need to be.
So do you think the explosion wipes out the branches and just leaves back the sacred? Or do you think the explosion is just the device has exploded, the timelines are fine, the TVA is fucked?
I think the TVA is fucked, and I believe we'll just see a bunch of incursions at once.
Okay.
Like,
We'll
jump from universe to universe. Yeah, we'll go from universe to universe to universe to universe, and Loki trying to like find a universe that has a TVA.
Do you think the characters we have and what they've established and where they've gotten to this point will have the same? This is where I get annoyed with certain things where they have like a mind resetting type moment.
Yeah.
Where they have to relearn everything they already knew that you just went through at this point 12 episodes, the 8 from the first or 6 from the first season, 4 from this, so 10 episodes. Are we going to have to relearn all that in the next episode? Because I'll hate the next episode at that point.
No. I think what it's going to end up doing is giving us an opportunity to reset Iron Man, Captain America.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to be a chance to bring back people or villains that were written off.
So do you think episode, we'll say 4 or 5, the ending of 4 and then subsequently 5 and 6 will butt up right against the Avengers movie and not anything in phase 5 or 6 prior to those?
No, I can see it taking place at the modern time.
So okay. I'm in my mind. I'm trying to piece it together. So like, if you were to see the ripple effect of episode 4,
mm-hmm.
What would you think the next project you would see that in?
It would have to be the Marvels. It would have to be Miss Marvels.
So okay, this is now playing devil's advocate because of just production time and when things are airing. The Marvels were supposed to air in July.
Yes.
And they got punted to November, which is conveniently opening night is like you can watch Loki at 9:00, the finale.
Yep.
And at 10:00 you can catch the Marvels opening night. I don't know what happens if you go and watch the Marvels and then Loki. I don't know if you're going to spoil things for yourself, but do you think that mattered in the decision to move it from July to November?
Well, didn't Loki season 2 get pushed back too?
No, I think it was always supposed to be fall.
Because
Secret Invasion was June, and then there was Ahsoka was going to be summer. Like, yeah, at least from the Disney. If you're throwing all the projects on the Disney board up at the screen to keep subscriptions, I'm curious because you didn't hear much about the Marvel's production. Like you keep hearing about like rewrites for Aquaman or Deadpool's on had a couple of rewrites. Like you keep hearing about stuff like that, but the Marvels has kind of flown under the radar and was seemingly finished and just waiting to release for like the last year.
Yeah.
Which scares me because then that means there's probably no connection there whatsoever. Because if this was finished, unless they had the Loki scripts all written out and they just didn't film it, and so they went to the Marvels and said, "Look, this is what's happening. This is what we want to do in your movie."
I'm not gonna lie. I honestly believe Loki season 1, season 2 were written all at the same time.
I could see that because season 2 picks right up at the end of season 1.
Exactly. There's very little expletives, very little throwbacks of, oh, you remember what happened last season? Like and also, traditionally speaking, TV episodes are 26 episodes a year.
Yeah. Well, they've gotten away with that since
exactly.
Streaming,
but again, if you want a story arc, you can stretch it out to 20 episodes.
Well, the interesting thing here,
your traditional writers would technically be able to do season 1 and season 2 of Loki all at once.
We've been burned before on this Disney Plus movie release, and I think that's what angers a lot of people about quote unquote phase 4. Hawkeye, I want to say it was Hawkeye.
Yeah.
That final episode was the day Spider-Man No Way Home dropped. And there was no connection between Hawkeye and Spider-Man No Way Home. You could make a stretch that it's Kingpin and Daredevil, but their roles were so minimal in the two that it's tough. And neither mentions the other. Like Kingpin doesn't mention Daredevil, and Daredevil doesn't. Daredevil's not Daredevil in that; he's Matt Murdock. So there's like it's just that was just a nice like, hey, Sony, don't leave us. So we've been burned before on that, and I know you seem pretty confident that the Marvels is going to have some connection to this. How do you think? Well, okay, how would you feel come November 10th? You're watching the Marvels, and there's nothing in there from Loki.
I would still be happy.
Okay, so you think the Marvels can stand on their own? Because I don't know what there's something about the Marvels that feels like they're not doing well in the pre-sales, and I don't know if it's because of the amount of trailers that because usually Marvel's pretty tight-lipped on their stuff.
Yeah.
To the point where they put the Bifrost showing up in one of the trailers.
Yeah.
Which now gets this conversation.
So to be fair, if you look at the trends, when Miss Marvel came out, everyone shit on it.
Which I think is unfair, but
well, I love Miss Marvel. I thought that was a wonderful movie. I enjoyed it. It was a strong movie. Then you go to the TV show. Again, there was a lot of online hate on it. And then now you're going to combine two of the, again, public scrutiny says that this is going to be just as bad as the others.
Which is funny because the two, like Kamala Khan and Carol Danvers, is like loathed by the internet.
Yeah.
I don't like Photon. Rambeau.
I can
the
get
third
that,
one.
Yeah.
Because she was in WandaVision, and I don't like that show.
I mean, I think we'll be surprised. And I'm looking forward to it.
Same. I like you said, I really enjoyed Captain Marvel. I think it was unfortunate that her story didn't matter in the grand scheme of Phase 1 or the Infinity Saga. It just didn't.
They're like, hey, I'm here.
Yeah, it's like, hey, this is a 90s story. Then she goes away. Then she's not Infinity War. Then she briefly shows up in Endgame.
Yeah. Well, her movie came out after
Infinity
War, right? Yeah. So it's kind of just like, it's all going to tie everything together, and it didn't.
You could have made Endgame without her.
Yeah.
Which
and
is
it would have been
stupid.
justified. Well, yeah. But again, I think it's going to be a good movie. I'm really looking forward to it, and I still need to get my tickets.
Well, she has which is weird. Like I don't really care for Superman movies.
Mm-hmm.
I just think a superhero that powerful is. It's also why I didn't care for the end of Secret Invasion because they went and made a fucking Superman in Emilia Clarke. When they get too powerful, that you can't have a rival. Like the best superheroes are flawed. Spider-Man, Iron Man, like they all have these like humanistic characteristics that I think elevate Marvel over DC. She has the Superman level powers. Thanos headbutts her, she just fucking eats that shit. That's cool for the moment, but you probably could have ended this whole thing so much sooner if you were involved, especially since you were created in the 90s.
Yeah, exactly. You should have been protecting Earth.
Yeah, and they tried to protect. They tried to justify it with the line of like, "There's a lot of other planets out there that didn't have guys like you."
Yeah.
Did you know these guys? Did you know that this planet that this planet Earth had these people? Because at least from her timeline perspective, you had Hank Pym.
Yeah.
And I think Hank might have been the only hero. You had Hank and Janet Van Dyne were the only like quote unquote heroes operating.
Yeah.
Cap wasn't nice. Iron Man wasn't a thing yet.
Well, I mean, Howard Stark was the thing.
Yeah, you had Shield, so you had an organization that kind of like could do stuff, but superhuman wise, and not even superhumans. It was just Hank Pym had Pym particles.
Yeah.
You didn't have a Hulk. You didn't have Iron Man. You didn't have Cap. Like it just. I know we're talking about Loki here, but with the idea of it showing up in the Marvels, I think the Marvels need it. And if it doesn't happen, I think you're going to get that same backlash that every other project in Phase 4 and now Phase 5 has been having.
Yeah.
Which sucks, because I genuinely, even though I have bashed the shit out of WandaVision, I have liked everything that's come out.
Yeah.
I mean, go ahead.
I mean, I feel that the overall writing is strong, and the only thing in my eyes that it lacks is it doesn't connect.
Yes. It doesn't connect to, we can't see how it connects yet. There's probably going to be a big reveal because they have admitted that they outlined this shit far in advance.
Mm-hmm.
And we get that outlines change. Like the whole Black Panther thing had to change because Chadwick Boseman passed away, and that wasn't the story they were going to go with. But if you look at some of these projects, and I know we're going into more things outside Loki, but I think this is a pivotal multiverse saga episode. Like this is going to be the crutch event that we're going to continuously refer to.
Yeah,
is the loom breaking.
not to bust their bubble, but I'm just going to say it now. We're speculating that it's going to be like the biggest event, and then they're just going to start the next episode with, "Oh, well, that never happened."
Right? TVA is not a thing. Never existed.
Yeah.
Just 10 episodes didn't mean shit.
It was all a dream.
Yeah, but like you look at some of these projects, and again, the biggest criticism that Marvel's getting under fire right now is that they spoiled us with a very intricate, interwoven story across 10 years that led to a point, and then they came out and said, we're going to go to another point, but we were expecting them to still doing the same intricate, interwoven shit they did by year 10, not going back to year 1 and starting over again. Because if you look at Black Widow, it's not a Natasha Romanoff story. You look at that from a perspective of her sister. It's a really good movie. Yeah. The Eternals, the only criticism I had of that is you should have done it as a TV show. I think because there was just too many characters and I wanted to know more about them, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
Spider-Man No Way Home was fantastic. No notes. Even though I think we're going to have a bunch of notes when the multiverse rules actually start becoming very defined. And you look back at Spider-Man and go, they didn't follow those fucking rules. AKA Vulture.
I will say this. The fact that I'm curious to see it pan out is in all the TV shows, they slowly changed the city of New York.
Yes. Well, the Avengers Tower, we don't know who owns that. And it's been redesigned.
The Statue of Liberty holds Captain America's shield. That was in Hawkeye and Spider-Man No Way Home.
Yeah. And then Spider-Man destroyed it.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, there's these slow changes that, like, I think it's going to be all throwbacks to go, that was a different universe. And it's just going to click with us that, like, oh, shit, all of these stories that we've been watching for this so far this phase, not the heroes that we were rooting for in Infinity War and the last one.
And you think the outrage would be at that? Hey, everything you just watched didn't matter.
It's not that it didn't matter. It was just like, this is like, you can kill all those characters and bring them back from life.
How did you feel about the elongated What If series?
I love the What If series.
I do too.
Great.
And they've been picking and choosing which elements to bring into it. Like Captain Carter eventually showed up in Doctor Strange 2.
Yep.
I have faith that we're going to look back at this in 2026 if we're still alive and go, okay, they did it to us again and they got to the point they wanted. But it's been frustrating trying to understand it. And a lot of the criticism they get are coming from people who aren't invested in the MCU and are annoyed that, like, they get annoyed when there is interwoven details. we as the MCU fanatics get annoyed when there's not enough.
Yeah.
So episode 5 and episode 6. Do you think it makes or breaks the season?
100%.
So like if they come out and it's slow, do you think the whole season's a waste?
If episode 6 ends on a "it didn't matter" note, I'm just done.
If they wake up on the Mary Tyler Moore show in episode 6 and they go, Dick Van Dyke didn't happen. And basically they're in like the WandaVision universe. I will suck on a barrel of a gun.
Yeah.
Because that would mean in 2020, when they were paying homage to Dick Van Dyke, this is where it was leading to. Is that Loki season 2 would end in a Dick Van Dyke style.
All under the mind control of the Scarlet Witch.
Yeah. I told you I was going to get those kids. An interesting thing, I'm hoping by the time we talk about episode 5, is I ordered the official MCU timeline book.
Ooh.
Because I've been seeing things leaking. Well, not leaking. Well, I guess leaking. Coming from excerpts from the book about certain timeline events. Like, they left it ambiguous still with the Wanda death in Doctor Strange 2. They went back and fixed the Spider-Man Homecoming continuity error, which basically said 8 years later, and it's like, that math doesn't check out. So I want to read through that book and kind of get an idea. I want to say it runs up to Loki season 1. I don't know where it actually stops. They're on the cover, so who knows?
Yeah.
So we got 2 episodes left. We're winding down this recap. What do you? Let's fantasy book. Any cameos or 5 and 6?
Cameos in episode 6.
Who are you going out on a limb and saying?
I mean, Thor is the obvious choice, but if you really want to like make people go, "What?" Doctor Strange.
God, the words right out of my mouth. I was thinking Strange, and I can't remember her name. Whoever he was with at the end of his movie, in that post-credit scene, because they were gonna go battle the incursions,
or the Watcher.
So okay. Do you think they have that? I can't think of the actor's name. Do you think he shows up just as his normal self, or do you think they're going to try to do like a bad CGI version or voiceover?
They'll do a voiceover, but I'm the Watcher.
Oh God!
I see all the universes.
It'll be the same chaos of people not being able to identify it was Blade at the end of the Eternals.
Oh my God! But like he has to do the same speech that he started every What If episode with.
That'd be interesting.
And then just Loki, all of Loki was just a What If episode.
I'm gonna double down on your prediction. I'm gonna go with Strange and Thor show up. Yeah, I don't know who else you could, unless you bring in Carol Danvers.
Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. I mean, I guess we'll find out in 2 weeks though.
It is getting here quick. Real quick. So that's been Podern Nerd, episode 4, Heart of the TVA for Loki season 2. I've been the Dace Man. He's been Cheever.
Woo!
We'll be back next week. And until then, Basement Dwellers, remember, stick to the protocol.
Dum, da, 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 da. I'm such a dick.
It's a beautiful outro. It's
yeah.